Hey my friends, welcome back to yet another amazing dessert requested by one of my all-time faithful subscriber, Kathy Chin. Thank you for your request. We're going to be making this amazing bread pudding which has been proven over and over to be super delicious in my house and all the persons who have tried this recipe before from my YouTube. So we're going to start off by adding our heavy cream, and I'm using 3 cups of heavy cream, and then we're going to add 1 cup of whole milk. If you are allergic to these, you can use whatever milk you would like to use. Next, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. I'm also going to add a tablespoon of cinnamon. You're going to go ahead and sweeten to your liking. I'm using 1 cup of sugar. You can use either brown or granulated sugar. Use your whisk to make sure that the sugar is incorporated with the liquid, and then we're going to go ahead and grate our nutmeg. I'm using freshly grated nutmeg. You can also use the one from the jar, but I will be using about half teaspoon. After getting my nutmeg mixed in, I like to taste it at this point before I add my eggs, just so that I can know if I need more sugar or if I need more cinnamon or nutmeg. Alright, so I have 1 cup of heavy cream left. I'm going to put that aside to make my sauce. After adding my egg, I'm going to whisk it in properly. I'm just giving you a close-up so you can see how rich this liquid looks, and it tastes amazing. So we're going to set this aside and move on to cutting up our bread. My favorite bread to use when I'm making bread pudding is French bread. However, if you don't have any at hand, you can use some hard bread or any bread that you have in your fridge, any stale bread, go ahead and use it. But this is my favorite bread to use. And I'm going to go ahead, cut it up in slices, and then I'm going to cut each slice in about 6 cubes. So here we have our bread all cut up, and I use 1.5 of the French bread. I honestly don't know how to give you that in measurement, but anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and add all of them in the liquid, and then we're gonna just press it in the liquid. You can use a spoon, or as you can see, I'm using a gloves, and I'm gonna push it down to make sure that it is fully saturated with the liquid so that it can absorb all the spices. All right, now I'm adding 1/4 cup of melted butter. I normally add this in the liquid, but I totally forgot until I turned around and saw it sitting on the counter. So I'm just gonna mix it in, and then we're gonna cover the bowl and set it to sit for about 30 minutes. And it all depending on the bread that you're using. I'm using French bread, which is a bit thicker, so I leave it for 30 minutes. If you're using a softer bread, you can give it about 10 to 15 minutes in the liquid, just so that it can absorb all the great spices that you've added into your liquid mixture. All right, so now after 30 minutes, we're gonna go ahead, and I like to take out some of the cubes and set it aside to put on the top, because I like when I have a nice crust on the top and it just looks pretty with the cubes on top. So now I am going to use one of my potato masher to mash the bread out, or if you don't have one, you can use your hands. Just put on a gloves and use your hands or a wooden spoon to mash the bread. Alright, so after mashing the bread, I already have my oven preheated at 350 degrees, and I have my container already greased. I also have some raisins that were soaking from overnight, and we're gonna add that in there as well. It's quite optional. Any pudding that I'm eating, I like when the sides have a nice golden brown crust, and that's my favorite part to eat. So I add butter to the container to help to give it that nice brown crust. Alright, so after adding some of my bread mixture that I had mashed previously, I am going to add my raisins. Alright, I'm going to add some of the raisins, and then I'm going to add some more bread on top. After adding that last layer of mashed bread, then that's when I'm going to add the cubes that I took out from before. We're going to add that to the very top, and then we're going to add a few more of our raisins. After adding those raisins, I'm going to use my spoon to just slightly sink the raisins that I put on top, just slightly, just so that they don't float up on top of the bread pudding, and they will sit in. You can still see them from the top, but they're not floating on top, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Bread pudding is simple to make. It's very easy to make. So a lot of people that say, oh, I don't like baking, I can't bake, you will be able to bake this. It's very easy. The bread is already baked for you. All you're doing is adding ingredients. All right. And you can also make this your own by adding other stuff that you don't see me add. Sometimes I add bourbon. If I'm making bourbon bread pudding, I will add some in here. I only add a little bit of rum with the raisins, but you can add whatever you want to add in there. All right. So remember to preheat your oven before that 30 minutes of soaking so that your oven will be ready. I gave this 50 minutes in the oven and I took it out. It, as you can see, is beautifully done. And we're going to make some sauce. The sauce is quite optional because you can enjoy your bread pudding with some ice cream. Just eat it hot, put the ice cream on top and let it melt and enjoy both of them together. But if you don't want to do that and you want to try to make this sauce, it's pretty easy. I just add 1 cup of heavy cream, a quarter cup of milk. For my spice, I add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. I sweeten to my liking, and then I'm going to go ahead and thicken this. We're going to let it come to a simmer as well, but to thicken the sauce, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of flour, and we add about 4 tablespoons of milk. After combining that, we add it to our simmering sauce, and we're going to let that cook down. Now, if you want your sauce to be strong with the rum, you can add the rum at the very end, but I like when the rum is cooked in a little bit so that it's not too strong. So we give this sauce about 10 minutes, and at the very end, you can add your rum and let your rum cook in for about a couple minutes. Alright, so I add some white rum, I added some bourbon, and then I add some more white rum because I thought it needed more, but it's up to you. You can go ahead and taste. All right, so tasting is key. That way you can know, all right, do I need some more rum in this, or is there too much rum? All right, so yeah, our sauce is ready. We're gonna set it aside. When it cools, it gets a little thicker, so at this point you want to take it off, so you don't want it to be too thick. So I like to cut my bread pudding about an hour after it's baked. An hour or two, I just let it sit and cool. That way you can get a nice slice out of it. Alright, and I don't like when my bread pudding is hot. I know some people like to warm up their bread pudding and eat it, but I like mine cold. So this is it, guys. As you can see, it's nice, and look at that crust. That's my favorite part. I don't know about you guys, but I like that golden brown crust. And I'm gonna smother it with some of the sauce. My daughter told me that after eating her slice of pudding that she was drunk from the sauce, but I think she's just been extra. And yeah, by the way, she's 25, before you all call CPS on me. So yes, guys, we're gonna go ahead and enjoy this slice of bread pudding. Kathy Chin, I know that you'll be watching. Thank you for your request. I know the last video I made is a bit old and you'll have to search all the way through from 2019 to find that video. So here it is. It was lovely and I only have a few slices left. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're all having a lovely weekend. Thanks to all my returning and new subscribers. Thanks to all my new friends on Facebook as well. I see you guys and I appreciate you all. Do have yourself a lovely weekend.